I'm not playing your dumb game.
I'm agreeing with you on the foreign policy. I'm agreeing with you.
Great replacement
Let me get a
theory.
word in.
No. Great replacement theory is a neo-Nazi theory. Until you address that, I can't continue this conversation.
Piers Morgan had a crazy in-person debate with Sarah Palin, Destiny, Dave Smith, and Mehdi Hasan. Let's take a look at some highlights and talk about it.
Destiny, where are we with this race? Because the polling suggests that it's a knife edge, too close to call. But if I'm a Democrat looking at the swing state polling in particular, I'm pretty nervous right now.
I think as an American, I'm pretty nervous. It feels like there is just like a totally different standard that both sides can play by. It's really funny listening to the idea that one statement in a 6-hour entire rally, can't be used to convict Trump or his campaign or the rally. Meanwhile, when it comes to Democrats, you guys will pick out like one line from somebody, and that will be fair to characterize their entire speech. They're absolutely not as bad as each other. Because the difference is that while Trump will have
in terms of picking out lines from lengthy speeches, I think both sides play that game equally hard.
Yeah, but the problem is somebody will pick out, say, the Biden line where he talks about MAGA Americans, and then when you read the speech immediately after, he goes, not all Republicans are MAGA Americans, it's a minority of the party. It's just these people that deny, for instance, the election outcome, right? He'll specify, he'll clarify. Whereas for Trump, you can pick out lines, and these lines are not only consistent with everything else that he says, they're consistent with the policy that he advocates for and tried to pass in government. We're living in two completely and totally separate worlds where the standards for both sides are just out of this world.
Destiny is right that Trump often says crazy stuff but actually means it. When Republicans take a Democratic quote, it's often in bad faith and taken out of context. With Trump, the context is usually always there.
So why is it that he may win? After everything that happened in the first term, after the way it ended, after the fact he was dead and buried, really, 2 years ago. I mean, I remember Ron DeSantis being way ahead in the polling to be a Republican nominee.
Yeah, before he ever talked to a single voter.
Right. But obviously but actually you could chart Trump's recovery was when the Justice Department started going after him in all sorts of different legal actions. And that is when you can see Trump's popularity starting to go up.
I totally disagree. It started to go up when he started to be more active in campaigning.
He went out to defend himself against all the legal charges.
He hasn't defended himself against any legal charge, to be clear. His defense is, I need criminal immunity. That's his defense. There was nothing was defensible. He didn't deny a single thing. He didn't say anything didn't happen. He said, I need criminal immunity from the things I'm being charged with. I can't possibly commit crimes.
Nobody has more aggressively defended themselves against criminal charges than Trump.
Name one defense. What's the defense for the Mar-a-Lago thing? What's the defense for the conspiracy to overturn the election thing?
You're conflating what I mean by defense with your idea of defense.
My idea of defense is like you say, this is why I didn't commit a crime. No, I did commit a crime and I need immunity. Like immunity by definition legally is not a defense,
right? But in relation to the one that he's actually being convicted of, I still think it was an absolute farce and a woeful act of self-harm by the Democrats who fueled this to go after Trump first for a bit of paper shuffling over paying a porn star off for a fling 18 years ago.
Piers brings up a legal case against Trump from so long ago that isn't even being talked about anymore. There are currently 4 legal cases against Trump that he pretends don't exist.
How many months did we have Hillary Clinton's emails being the front and center story for the news? How much did we hear about Hunter Biden and his cock and his crack addiction or whatever? Who's, by the way, still not running for president?
How can Bill Clinton, when he was actually president of the United States, have sex with an intern in the Oval Office and then lie about it to the American people? And it's not him that gets dragged through a criminal court. It's Trump over a fling with a porn star 18 years ago.
Hold on. And I could be wrong because I'm younger. I'm only 35, okay? My understanding is that Bill Clinton was impeached in the House, and that Bill Clinton was...
But he was never criminally charged.
And then because I don't think he committed necessarily a crime.
Destiny is right that Bill Clinton did not commit a crime. He was impeached based on principles that people held at the time. Clearly, they don't hold the same principles today.
Let's talk about Trump. He tried to overturn an election. He's not being tried for it. Do you think it's right, Piers, as someone who objected to the insurrection, that he's going into election in 8 days? You asked Destiny, why is he still doing so well? Because he was never tried. You want to talk about the DOJ? I think the DOJ is an embarrassment. I wish they'd gone after him. They didn't go after him because he's going into an election having not seen the inside of a courtroom. For Georgia, for DC, we heard him commit a crime on tape, Piers. You heard him. You heard him say to Brad Raffensperger, find me the vote. If you had done that, I'd done that, we'd be in prison right now. We wouldn't be running for re-election. That is the reality. The American people never got to hear in court all of the charges against him.
It is sad that Trump hasn't been to court regarding the Georgia election interference case where he has been indicted on 10 felony counts. The American people deserve to know the results before the election.
It is not Donald J. Trump, a person who is to be supported. It's what he represents. The Trump train that has been so aggressively moving forward with great intention for this country, we recognize It's what is represented on that. It's all about freedom. It's all about not allowing our country to be fundamentally transformed, as Barack Obama had promised he and his ilk that they would do to America. He said that back in 2008. We recognizing we don't need a fundamental transformation of America. We need a restoration of all that's good about America.
What is the freedom that Donald Trump represents?
And that is what Trump.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Is it the freedom to not have an abortion, to have a police officer looking over you when you go to get tested for pregnancy? Is it the freedom to have a president that lives above criminal prosecution? Is it the freedom to have tariffs related to every single product that we might import into the country? What is the freedom?
We'll take one freedom that he is quite adamant about, because the majority of Americans are adamant about, and that's our Second Amendment rights.
I'm sorry. How much anti-gun legislation or executive action did Biden do? And then compare that to Trump. Biden did nothing. Trump banned bump stocks, so that's an auto loss for you. What's the next?
Well, let's talk about Kamala and her position.
Okay.
Are you saying Kamala or are you saying Kamala?
I say Kamala because I don't see any point in deliberately mispronouncing a name.
Like Trump does every single time he speaks.
Well, I don't want to
Hussein Obama.
Yeah, Hussein. Yeah.
And they called him the new Hitler. So all's fair in love and war.
Excuse me, but also didn't Trump
Trump
try to accuse Obama of not being born in the United States? Wasn't that his entrance into politics? Again, it's not just what he says; it's what he does. Just asking questions. And even when Arpaio came out with the birth certificate, they said no apology for that.
Okay, so you asked about the freedoms
when you're called a Nazi,
they called Obama a communist for 8 years.
Let me finish my point.
Oh my goodness!
Yes, you're obsessed with this one point. It's all you have. It's really sad.
It's quite a big point because you're
It's
comparing.
not because Trump calls
Didn't
Harris
Trump
a
say
fascist.
immigrants were the poisonous to the blood of the nation or whatever?
You're comparing Trump to the most evil person in modern history,
J.D. Vance
who murdered 12 million people, who perpetrated the Holocaust to 6 million.
Hitler. The only person I know who's called Trump Hitler is his running mate.
All of the Republicans are clutching their pearls over people pointing out similarities between Trump rhetoric and Hitler rhetoric. They all fail to mention the fact that Trump also called Biden a Nazi, and apparently it doesn't matter.
Donald Trump is a 4-year-old when it comes to understanding any issue, but especially foreign policy. And a lot of people have this, they're obsessed with this idea of peace in their mind, which if you're in conflict, peace is the furthest thing from your mind. You want some kind of just peace or justice, right? So Trump's solution for Ukraine is just give up the land that's been taken from you and everything will be kosher, just like Russia did in Moldova with Transnistria, just like Russia did with South Ossetia, and I can't even pronounce the other place in Georgia, and just like Russia's trying to do now with Ukraine. If you're somebody that wants, justice for Ukraine, and you want the United States to remain a world leader when it comes to, ensuring trade routes or being somebody that the world looks to ensure relative peace and freedom and stability throughout places like Europe, which it has enjoyed historically more in the past 30 years than it had in the 200 years prior to that. Donald Trump obviously is not going to do that for you. If you're somebody who's very concerned about the Israeli-Gaza conflict, you've got Donald Trump who wholeheartedly, he said it before, will support Israel basically no matter what, with absolutely, no contention whatsoever. You've got a guy who agreed to moving the embassy, who before that was talking about pulling all of the UNRWA funding from the Gaza Strip, who would support Netanyahu through and through. The whole reason why those Abraham Accords started was because Netanyahu wanted to start annexing parts of the West Bank, right? Donald Trump is not going to help any of the Palestinians if that's something that you're concerned about. Insofar as peace in the Middle East, you've got this talking point over and over again, no new wars, no new wars. Yeah, again, we haven't had any new wars since World War II, right? The war in Iraq was the use of force authorization, the authorization of the use of force, but it wasn't technically a war.
Well, it was a war.
You can call it that, but Donald Trump bombed Syria. Donald Trump bombed Syria. That wasn't a war, apparently. With no congressional authorization. Iran attacked Saudi Arabia. They did a drone strike on oil refineries. There was conflict all throughout Iraq and Syria. Donald Trump abandoned Kurdish allies in Syria. Donald Trump signed a deal with the Taliban and essentially forfeited Afghanistan. And there was the whole fallout from that. Like, this idea that there was peace in the Middle East under Donald Trump is absolutely ridiculous.
If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe to help my channel grow. Thank you.